Mr. Chad Paris, welcome to the Rich Equation podcast. Honor for you to be here, my friend.
Thank you, Ashish. Glad to be here with you today, man.
I'm really excited for this. You know, we were recently introduced by a close friend and a past guest of the podcast, Carol, and we got to talking, and it was really clear that you are a excelling leader. You have a lot of great experience that I wanted to have the listeners tap into today. You're a family man. You are really connected and trying to expand yourself spiritually. And so I'm just really excited to unravel it, unpack it all today.
Thanks.
And now that you're all vibed up with your incense and you've done your meditation, we're all meditated,
not
we're
medicated,
all vibing.
meditated. Yeah,
that's right, man. So I'm excited.
I need a shirt. Meditated, not medicated.
That's right.
Nothing wrong with medication.
I actually
quick shout out to Carol. Thanks, Carol, for the recommendation. I'm so glad to meet you, Ashish. Glad to be here with you today, and all the listeners. Hello.
Yeah, this is gonna be great. So, I actually wanted to ask you. As I was preparing for the podcast and looking you up, you do this thing which I thought was really cool and fascinating, that you write a word of intention on your wrist.
Oh.
And you write really cool words on your wrist to remind you of something throughout the day. Where did that come from? That's super cool.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it was something I was practicing at the time. I think now it's like multiple things. I have like a lot of things that I'm trying to consistently lock in, which I'm happy to talk more about. But yeah, back then I think, you know, I was so ADD, like I needed that thing to focus on that, you know, would help with kind of bringing my attention to like one specific thing that I really wanted to improve. But I think that's what it always kind of came down to, is like, this is something I want to work on and focus on today.
Well, it speaks to really your journey and where you've come from. And I'm going to try to get some of this right, but I'd love to have you talk about your journey. You know, you came from commercial marketing, let's call it, and now you're in nonprofit marketing. But you go by this tagline of a human acting like a professional, which speaks to sort of a huge mind shift that you've had in your life. Tell me a little bit about that journey. Tell us what has created that transition for you, and talk about what you've experienced.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I'm still very much on that journey.
Yeah.
You know, I was watching the new Netflix season on, what's the cooking show? Oh man, it's so great. Their photography is all, you know, the shots are always just beautiful. And this latest one is pizza. They're focused on pizza chefs, and I watched the second episode last night, and you know, the whole thing is pretty much a montage on this, you know, pizza chef that basically just like absolutely disrupted like pizza in Rome. You know, and you know, initially he just kind of had this like persona that he was presenting to the world, and I think ultimately it just resulted in his just complete spiral into, you know, drugs, alcohol, vices, you name it. And I think so much of that journey is about learning how to not be an actor, you know, learning how to not, you know, present as a professional. You know, it was one of the main reasons I wanted to do like a really deep meditation, and, you know, light some incense, like really set the vibe for this conversation, is because it actually takes a lot of work, especially like cameras on, you know, the red light's on, like this is going to be listened to a couple of times. Like once this goes on the internet, like
just a couple of times, dude.
Yeah.
Just two, maybe two.
Yeah. My mom and my dad.
Yeah. Maybe me too. 3.
Yeah. But like once it's on the internet, you know, it's forever.
It's out there forever.
Know? And so there's this obvious fear of like, oh man, what if I say like fuck, you know, or like, you know, like it slips out of my mouth, whoops, you know, or, you know, and so I don't know. I think that is so much of life is both learning who you are learning. So much of my life has been about learning who I am, and then learning how to not hide that, to not feel like from 9 to 5 I'm this, but then from 5 to 9 I'm this,
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out how to try to integrate the two. So so at work, as an example, like I try to show my goofy side. I try to show my very vulnerable side. And, I try to share about what's going on in my personal life, not oversharing. I've been guilty of that as well. And yeah, just trying to figure out how to marry the two, a human acting like a professional, not the other way around. So, but it is a journey. And I'm still very deeply entrenched in it. And it is much more in my nature to present the stage character than it is to present the authentic self. And so it takes a lot of really deep intention, like every interaction, to try and bring who I really am to the table, not who I think you want me to be.
Yeah, it's so easy for us to get wrapped up in identity. Society likes safe identity, right?
Absolutely.
Chad, the CEO, he's supposed to act a certain way. I expect him to be this way, act this way, behave this way, say these things. And then the moment he doesn't, I judge him, I criticize him. And so we live in this we live in this paradigm.
Yeah, it is a paradigm. And I think, case in point, we just saw this a couple of weeks ago with Dan Price, CEO of, I think his Elevated Payments or something like that. I can't remember. He was the one that dropped his salary down to 70,000, paid everybody across the board 70,000. Is like kind of crazy social experiment. People studied all over the place. Incredible, builds this incredible following, right? And then all of a sudden it comes out that, he is, has a couple of sexual assault charges brought against him, and like overnight, just boom, just burns down completely, right? And so I think so much of that comes from the presentation, and trying to, present to the world what I think everybody else wants me to be. And I think some of that for Dan probably very much was authentic. And there's this other side of him that clearly like he wasn't addressing. And so, pretty big on like, don't hide anything in those dark nooks and crannies. Like we got to address these things.
Well, I think that what shows up for me is that, there's this significant fear of failing. For me, like two things: fear of failing and fear of looking bad, right? That show up really intensely. And I think there's probably 4 major fears. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but for me, those 2 really speak to me. And as a leader, we're often expected to look a certain way, feel, act, behave, speak a certain way. And then we're not allowed to fail. It's not okay. It's not okay to have faults or make mistakes or whatever. And so what I was really excited about in unpacking with you is that it's not that you don't care about those things, but you have experienced them and you've kind of worked through that really graciously. So I'd love to kind of unpack that with you. Tell us a little bit about what has happened over the last few years in your experience of transitioning from one company or one business to another, and what have been your biggest lessons learned?
Yeah, I just said yep in the affirmative, as if, I have evolved beyond this, Ashish.
That was my past self, Chad 1.0.
Now that I have achieved perfection and I do not make mistakes, fail, I'm not afraid of them. I call it looking like a doofus. And that's one of my biggest fears is looking like a doofus. And again, it's, I think, my stage character being found out, and when I'm in autopilot and the ego, the monkey mind is running the show, that is very much a knee-jerk reaction for me. And so that's why it's so important for me to continue to try and practice, paying attention to the thinking, paying attention to, what's going on for me, because otherwise I end up taking it out on other people.
Yes.
And that's really, really, really hard. That's probably one of my greatest challenges, one of my greatest fears. I would say the Making mistakes, not so much. Failing, yes. I'm good with making mistakes. I've made a lot of them in my life. And to the point that when I'm asked, what's your biggest mistake you've ever made? I really have a hard time answering that question, not because there's so many and that are so big, but more because I've now seen that the value of mistakes, that they translate to wisdom. So it's really hard for me to see them as
a mistake. Yeah,
failures,
right.
Mm-hmm. That said, one of my biggest fears is Parisleaf failing. We have for a long time been the little engine that could, and we have been through many ups and downs over, our now 12 coming up on 13-year tenure. But that's probably one of my biggest fears. And I think it's because so much of my identity is tied to Parisleaf and Parisleaf success. And it's crazy, man. So on the flip side of the greatest fear is like probably the greatest fault, which is when Parisleaf is successful, then I am a successful person. I am great.
You're whole when Parisleaf.
I am whole,
yes.
Right? now I can breathe.
The trap.
Now that Parisleaf is okay, now I'm okay too. And when Parisleaf is not okay, I am not okay, right? And so I'm pretty sure I just described and defined workaholism.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's, and really, now the challenge is, how do we not only practice the authenticity, the not presenting a stage character, but really realizing that now, I'm 9.5 weeks into fatherhood. I've been married to Allison, my life partner and business partner and best friend in the whole wide world. And I'd love to talk about that too, because that's a fun one. For 14 years and there's so much work I do outside of work. Now the task ahead of me is about seeing work as a means to an end.
Tell me more. What does that mean?
Yes, I want that work-life integration. I want to be able to bring my true self to Parisleaf, to work, but at the same time, it is a job. It is, and I love it. I really love what I do. I enjoy it so much. I think that's what makes it even harder, particularly because I've integrated so much of myself into my work. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's a job that PAYs the bills, and I've got to remember, like, the work I do outside of, paying the bills, that's where it's at. It's the people that I help outside of work when there's no paycheck tied to it. It's the partner that I show up as, and the father that I show up as, the son, the sibling, the friend. Like, at the end of the day, when I'm on my deathbed, like that's going to be what it's about. Not did I close another deal, or did that connection work out?
So let's stay here for a minute, because this is something that I'm really kind of working through, and I see a lot in other entrepreneurs, and it shows up in questions all the time too. So let's kind of slow this down, right? So I think that many entrepreneurs that are, let's call it quote unquote, successful in the entrepreneurial world or the business world, we talked about, like you said, I'm like a workaholic. I would say that you have this like calling or this mission driven integrity that gets you to focus so clearly on one singular thing that everything else sort of becomes, let's say, out of visibility or out of zone, right? And I think that that's good in some way, because in order to succeed, right? Like, in order to run a 10-second 100-meter race, you can't be thinking about how to run a 5-minute mile. So like, you have to be completely focused. But you've also, as we grow, or as we experience more in life, and as our let's say our family grows, or our business grows, or we grow, like, we learn that focus is costing you.
Yeah. Correct.
And so what I'm interested in figuring out, or I guess unpacking with you, is that, how can people, because I don't think that you can't focus in order to be successful. I think there's like some weird nuance here somewhere. It's like, I want to try to do everything and I want to be everything to everybody. Well, I mean, if you look at any successful business or entrepreneur, they're pretty focused on one thing, right? And what I see a lot also is people either successful in business, but they suffer in their relationships, or vice versa. And so if we're trying to find this harmony, I like the way you said integration. It's how do we bring intention to all of it without dismissing one or the other? And that's, I guess, you're right. It's an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing experiment, if you will, right? And I think the suffering is good in a way because and if you're aware enough, like you are, it causes enough discomfort for you to pivot. It just causes enough discomfort to say, hey, this is not right. Something's wrong. Something is not, I'm not fulfilled, or I'm not connected, or whatever. So expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, it's so tough. I was actually thinking about this morning, and we can tap into this a little bit. I mean, like most of the world, I am an addict. We're all addicted to different things. Some
Right.
are addicted to their screen, and I was thinking about it this morning, and I think it was because I was watching Chef's Table.
Chef's Table. Oh yeah,
Chef's
of course.
Chef's Table Pizza Edition. But I was thinking about how what gets most of these chefs on the show is obviously their craft is at the pinnacle. A large reason for that is it is because of addiction.
Yeah, they're obsessed with something.
Obsessed. And how often you hear them say, I stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning working on the perfect dough, only to wake up at 7 a.m. and back at it. And I did it for years. Like, that's addiction.
Yes.
And then I thought about Steve Jobs and his obsession with creating these perfect technology integrations, these devices that were an extension of my brain, right? And I think it really does drive so much of society, and capitalism is addiction and obsession. So yeah, I don't know if I because, like, on one hand, I mean, 9 to 5, like I drop in and not 9 to 5. That's part of the problem. It's not 9 to 5.
It's not 9 to 5. Yeah.
It's not 9 to 5.
It's blah and blah.
Yeah. I roll over and check my emails. I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is check my emails. That's actually, you're talking about the 21-day challenge. That's one of the things I'm trying not to do, is the first 30 minutes a day, not check my emails.
Right.
But yeah, it's really challenging figuring out, yes, this pays the bills, this keeps the lights on, but it's not who I am, and it's not what defines me. It is a component of me, right? And it's tough because, particularly, like Ashish, like, we come out of hustle culture,
Yes.
where, like, for so long, people who put in insane hours were worshipped as the gods, that they had the stamina. But then you have these very private conversations with those people, and they're crashing and burning, man.
Yes.
And they're totally burned out of their mind, right? And it's like, great, I have millions, but my life is so empty, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, going back to the beginning of your question about success, I think we need to start with just the simple question: how do we define success? Because I think currently, when I'm in autopilot, the way I define success is next.
Meaning?
Which means I never get there.
Yeah. It's
as soon
never
as
ending.
I arrive, it's the next thing. And then I get there, it's the next thing,
Yeah. Yep.
First it was, get a job, got it. Then it was, get the girl, got it. Then it was, 2 cars in the driveway, got it. House, got it. 6-figure, and on and on and constantly just chasing next. And, the number in my bank account, right?
Yeah. Once I get this.
Yeah, man. One of my somebody close to me once said, so that they're in their mind, they wanted to have $1 million in liquid cash in their bank account. And that was what success looked like. They spent their whole life chasing it. 70 something years old, finally got it. And he called me that day and said to me, just want to let you know, I've always defined success by this. And I want to let you know that today I hit that. I hit that number. It was, I got, $1 million, $23.12 in liquid cash in my savings account. And I want you to know my next thought was double it. I've spent
my whole life,
55 years of my life, my entire career chasing that number. And as soon as I got it, the next thought was double it. So I think we need to start there.
Pretty dramatic.
What's success? What is enough? And why am I so hungry for me and mine? And I'm going to get mine. And as soon as I get mine, then I'll be generous. That's the killer.
What is your opinion about goal setting?
Oh, I'm all about it. Absolutely. Set goals. Just don't define yourself based on those goals. I set goals all the time. I fall short all the time. I actually probably miss most of my goals. I probably need to get better at goal setting. Because ambition just drives me. And so I always, it's always, I'm probably not good with the R part of the SMART goals, the realistic, it's like,
that's okay.
I go
have some BHAG goals.
I do. We have BHAG goals, and we do have a BHAG actually. So our firm's ultimate ambition is to help our nonprofit partners raise $25 billion by the end of the decade. So it's there. Like, we definitely have big ambitious goals every single year, every single quarter, almost every single day we have goals. But if we fall short, does that mean that my value as a human is any less? No. Do I need to be a better leader? Maybe. Do I need to maybe look in the mirror and say, how could I have been better? Maybe. Do I need to have some tough conversations? Sure. But my value as a person is not dependent on, did I hit my goals or not?
Let's tap into professional, and then maybe we'll come back and circle into family, because I do want to get back into relationships. But you have transitioned really into the nonprofit world and helping raise significant funds for nonprofits. And there's some I'm interested to get into like the psychology of what's working and what's not working, right? In that mission driven business, it's not, I don't think it's as capitalistic as maybe raising funds for a PE firm or something like that. So there's like some humanistic, societal benefit that you're raising. And then there's like, how do you market to people and tap into their, subconscious or heart or connection? Or so I'd love to kind of dig into that and see if there's something there for people to learn about, maybe how to tap into the subconscious of people's behaviors or thinking from a marketing perspective.
So everything, I want to be clear that everything that we do, like, it's not too difficult to launch nonprofit. The NRA is a nonprofit as an example. It's, we had a teeny tiny little nonprofit we launched, so it's not, every single nonprofit. It's not we want to align ourselves with an organization just because they're a nonprofit. If you do align yourself with the NRA, that's your prerogative. But, just as an example, right? As a firm, we try to align ourselves with nonprofits that we really feel like are advancing humanity, and the nonprofits that we feel like are able to make the biggest impact, because we are a pretty small team, that we're able to make the biggest impact with our energy and time and our creative abilities, tend to fall in the higher education, healthcare, and arts and culture spaces. We do a lot of work in environmental when we can, and when there's a decent enough size campaign where we feel like we can make a big impact. There are some smaller nonprofits we absolutely love to align with, but in order to hit such an ambitious BHAG, we do typically align with medium to large size. but we're working with one right now that does about 4 million a year. Suicide hotline, they field about 45,000 calls a year. So rolling it all the way back, our purpose statement is that we believe that money is mission fuel in the right hands.
Right.
That's the caveat, is it in the right hands, right? And our aim is to be the right hand to those right hands. That we want to be seen as the partner, the consultant, the confidant, the consigliere, the kind of kooky creatives. And so we really tried to be very particular about what nonprofits we're aligning with to make sure that those nonprofits are really very much advancing humanity. And before we were even specializing in nonprofits, we were doing the same thing with for-profit businesses.
Right.
We had these kind of series of questions we would ask ourselves. And the ultimate question was, if we're not advancing humanity, can we at least say we're not hurting humanity?
Right.
So that has been the consistent thread all the way through, that if we're going to use our creative abilities and our creative powers to help organizations, it needs to be about advancing humanity. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah.
But
I'm
does
just
cover
really
some of that kind of work, personal integration as well.
Yeah, I think one thing that keeps showing up for me recently is just getting super clear on like customer journey and customer, I don't want to say customer experience. I think that's a little overused, but really the purpose of a company is to sort of wrap the customer in a warm blanket. And that's kind of how I think about it. And what does that mean, right? And so like, how do I engage with how do you engage with your client? How do you engage with the world in a very curated, experiential way to make them feel like this experience is such that I can't go anywhere else to experience it, right?
Yeah,
so
I love that. So the entire ethos behind our brand, if you look at our website, our logo mark is actually, it looks like just kind of basic brackets, but they're actually meant to represent abstract hands. So our tagline is your capital campaign brand digital partner. And what that simplifies to is your partner. Because ultimately we help these nonprofits with these fundraising campaigns, but then we end up moving into a long-term partnership. We end up being seen as a partner. As we say, we believe that branding, messaging, creativity it deserves to have a seat at the table. And so we're very much, like you said, about, kind of wrapping our partners in that warm blanket and realizing that they, like us, are humans and that they need people to count on, to depend on, and to have those confidential conversations with, that they know that they can trust, that are those trusted resources. So we are huge on that and on really trying to take care of our partners' humanity, beyond just their brand, because the brand is just an extension of the humans within an organization. I think if you were going to give branding the best definition, that's probably what it would be.
Yeah, I mean, people often think about branding and marketing or messaging to consumers because that's how we think about it. Like, how do we message to somebody who wants to buy shoes, for example, and how do I get into the subconscious of that person? But in B2B, the other buyer or the person, their client on the other end is also a human. They're also a person. They represent a company, but they're also a human. And so I've spent a lot of time really trying to send this message that we need to be marketing and we need to be talking to other people, not even if we're B2B, right? And it's not so easy. We have to get into the subconscious or the psychology of where that person lives or how they think or what motivates them, etc. But just fascinated about this.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's
right.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And these are not computers and machines that are making decisions. It's, at the end of the day, it is people. Like
humans.
The data world is fantastic, but it tells us very little about human emotions. And
right.
At the end of the day, we're partnering with human beings with very complex thoughts and emotions and decision-making processes.
So I do want to wrap up with some relationship stuff, because as a new father, as a businessman, with a spouse, in managing all of your relationships and your time, what seems to be working and what seems to not work?
It is, gosh, I thought life was a balancing act before children or child. Going to be even more so when it's children.
Yeah.
If we get there, which I believe that we will someday. And I want to say it's going really well. I mean, the only thing that's, I think, had to take the biggest hit is just sleep, but that's so cliche to say.
Yeah.
But I'd say everything that I used to do before, being a dad, I've just had to trim back a little bit. So, my whatever personal spiritual work, time with friends, working out, work, you name it, like everything, like it's just had to be trimmed back, and every bit of free time that I have, as soon as I get off this call, I'm going down, I'm going to go kiss that face. I mean,
yeah,
really lucky he's, in my office, and, thankful and lucky he's, we get to work on very, very close to each other. And so, but it's every free moment I possibly have. And so it's not only every free moment, but it's also, how do I free up time? And everything just has to get reprioritized, but
yes,
life turned into a deck of playing cards, and the top one is that Joker. It's like, surprise, everything comes after this.
Priority matters, man. I mean, I always say there's always somebody busier than you. No matter how busy you think you are, there's somebody quote unquote busier than you. Yeah. They've just learned how to prioritize their time.
Yeah. And I think, to me, being a dad is a priority.
Yeah, exactly.
For a lot of people that society would deem as successful, that's not as much of a priority for them.
Sure.
And that's their prerogative. That is totally okay. But when I'm on my deathbed, I want to be able to say, like I showed up. I showed up, I was present, I contributed, that my marriage, our partnership, our parenting was equitable. That's like, those are the things that really matter to me. So yeah. So, and I will tell you, I am less quote unquote successful than I would be if those priorities weren't like that. But again, it's all about how you measure success. That is according to society. So
yeah. Well, what I've learned, and you're still in the journey of it, and I think I learned this probably a couple of years too late, but nonetheless better late than never, is that it's not just about having priorities, but really the order of the priorities matter. And I think that it was really easy for me to say, what do I value, right? I value my family. I value my business. I value myself. I value, my kids. But I wasn't putting that in an order. And going back to the first thing I asked you, is that when we live life in this program where we have all these things we want to do, but we don't prioritize them with intention, it's really easy to get off track and lost and addicted, and so
you got it. Yeah. And I think, contrary to popular belief, you can go the other way to the extreme, which is, kids first, friends first, people first, marriage first. And I disagree with that too. I think I'm a big believer in, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first in order to be able to help others put theirs on. So I have to make sure that my house is in order. The beauty is, the way that I do that most of the time is in working with other people.
Yeah.
But I can't give away something that I don't have myself. And so it's really important, in order for me to show up as a dad, as a partner, as a son, a sibling, like I have to put self-care as number one. And I fall short with that as well.
Well, it's an evolution. I think we all kind of oscillate. Too much, too little, right? Yeah. It's funny. Like, I was having a discussion about somebody, staying on this, like, what's your why type of thing. And somebody was challenging this concept of, find your why. And he goes, I'm actually more interested in you finding your what than your why. Because when we do something, as either men or entrepreneurs or purpose-driven or purpose-seeking people, we learn through that evolution. Like, do something. Did that give me fulfillment or didn't it?
Yeah.
Then adjust, and then try it again, and then adjust. But if you're lost in looking for the why all the time, you just sit there. You're thinking, oh, is this calling me? Is it not calling me? Is it calling me? Is it not calling me? And you don't end up doing anything. So I thought it was really fascinating because, going back to what you said, is like, you could prioritize your kids and be like the best father ever. But also, is that giving you fulfillment? And can you go? So I don't know. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out this architecture too. So just a fun, just keep going deep, right?
If I had one wish for the world, I would love that. That sounds so wonderful and idealistic, is what am I going to do with my time? And I think I agree, so much of the world is spending time, myself included, and wondering what is the purpose and meaning of life.
Yeah.
And I spend a vast majority of my time and life going deeper and deeper and deeper into that. But I wish we could all just agree that the purpose and meaning of life is very simple. It's just two words: just help others. And if we could all just agree on that, then we could spend a lot more time figuring out, well, what do we do to support that? But I think it comes back, like, again, how do we measure success? It's like, it's this hard wiring that we have around what is happiness, right? I love the Mark Twain quote: the two most important days in a person's life is the day they're born and the day they find out why. And I just wish we could get to that quicker and then move on to, okay, now what do I need to do to support that, both personally and professionally.
Well, I think we could probably talk for another hour, my friend. I think we may have to record another podcast, part 2. Yeah. And actually, I may
Mom
take
and
you
Dad,
up on
if you're
that.
Listening, thank you. Appreciate you being such great supporters, and making that listener base of 3.
Yes.
Yeah. But no, Ashish, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate you having me. It's been a lot of fun.
I do want to ask you one final question as we wrap up. For you, what does it mean to live a rich life?
I think redefining what happiness really is. And then once you figure that out, really go after it with everything you got.
I appreciate you, Chad. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for sharing and being open and vulnerable. I honor you for the journey you're on and constantly digging a deeper hole. So I'm excited to take my shovel out with you.
Thanks. Hopefully not a ditch, but there's
not a
hill
ditch
on the other side of that hole.
We're digging for something. But
yeah, pleasure. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah. All right. Take care, brother.